What is up, world-class athlete? Does your progress feel painfully slow? Are you putting in the practice but not getting those results you deserve? That is exactly why in today's video, I'm gonna provide you with my 3-stage clarity framework, which I use to develop the Carlos Alcaraz forehand technique in just 27 minutes. And by the end of today's video, you're gonna know, number one, exactly what you should be focusing on during your practice sessions to improve at the fastest possible rate. Number two, the exact step-by-step drills and checkpoints to implement in your practice sessions. And lastly, number three, exactly how to gain that evaluative criteria and feedback to know of the forehand, which are the phases that you need to work on specifically. So let's jump right in. The first step for you to make that breakthrough progress every time you practice is to gain clarity over the goal. And that could be technical, it could be footwork, it could be strategic. But the most important thing is before you practice, you understand exactly what you want to be focusing on to improve at the fastest rate. So for me personally, I want to be mastering the Carlos Alcaraz forehand. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down his technique using a simplified version of my 5-stage forehand framework. Now, if you want the full version, as well as access to follow along drills, there's a free video that you can watch right now by clicking the link in the description to learn all about that. So let's just go ahead and break down Alcaraz's forehand into the unit turn, the acceleration, and the contact for simplicity. So these are the specific elements that I'll be mastering. The first element you'll notice is that with Carlos Alcaraz's unit turn, he's gonna have his elbow positioned in line with his shoulder, gripping his racket with his left hand. And from this angle, you'll see that Carlos Alcaraz is gonna be holding the choke of his racket to the right of his head, the left from this angle, the right from my angle. From there, we'll now go into the acceleration, where you'll see that Carlos Alcaraz, when he accelerates, he's gonna fluidly accelerate by dropping his arm down and then pulling away and down from the body. And lastly, getting into that perfect contact point with the arm straight in front. All together, applying those stages, the technique's gonna look something like this: that high turn, prep, and accelerate through. One more. So high unit turn, drop down, fluid acceleration. So those are the specific elements that I'm gonna be focusing on when practicing. Now, the second stage for you to master, to make that breakthrough progress when you practice, is having clarity over what you're actually doing on the court. So let's jump into that right now. Now that you have clarity before you practice over exactly what you want to be achieving, the second stage is to then understand what is it that you're actually doing on the court, which is best gained through video analysis. So you'll see with my forehand, the difference between my forehand and Carlos Alcaraz is that, number one, my unit turn needs to be higher. I need to hold the racket longer and achieve this internally rotated position of the shoulder. And then secondly, with my acceleration, I need to focus on, rather than accelerating up and away, I need to focus on accelerating down. And see, now that I have clarity over exactly what I want to achieve and exactly what I am doing, now we can piece it all together with a step-by-step practice plan that's gonna allow me to develop all of those technical elements. So let's jump right into that. All right, so now we know exactly what to focus on. We know exactly what my mistakes are to improve. Let's jump right into drill number one, where we're gonna be mastering the unit turn. So as you remember from my footage, my mistake was that my unit turn was too low, and also I was releasing the racket too early. So my technical checkpoints that I'm gonna focus on are achieving with the left hand holding the racket like that, gripping the racket like that, and then I'm gonna freeze right there to make sure I have that perfect Carlos Alcaraz unit turn technique. And the key is, rather than just jumping in trying to hit balls, you can work with a friend and have them just feed you and focus on stopping at that position. So he's gonna zoom to feed me, I'm gonna adjust to the ball, and then I'm gonna stop, and then I'm gonna use my visual checkpoints to identify, all right, did I do that correctly or not? And it looks like I am doing it correctly, so I'm super pumped. So I'm gonna do that 2 more times, make sure that I'm doing it correctly. Beautiful, stop. All right, got it. So now it's like, okay, so if I feel this way, I'm doing the technique correctly. And that's all world-class technique is. It's just implementing it, getting the feedback, and then associating that feeling so that way you can do it without actually having to stop and check. So one more time, I'm gonna challenge myself, split, real quick unit turn, stop and check, I got it dialed in. So now that I've got that unit turn dialed in, it's time for me to focus on dialing in the acceleration and also the contact. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna simplify things, and I'm just gonna start from that unit turn position. And my focal point here is going about 10% speed, dropping and accelerating. So here what I'm trying to focus on is to rewire my muscle memory such that when I accelerate, my arm is gonna be pulling down and away from my body. So let's do a few more. Here, drop. Oh, it's feeling great. So I'm gonna go really fluid, high prep, fluid drop, and accelerate out. So even though I'm making mistakes, I'm not really concerned about making shots, etc. The only thing that I'm focusing on, I learned this from Rick Macy, is that you really just want to focus on the form, because the form is what gives you the result, right? If you want the fruit, you got to focus on the root. You know what I'm saying? So for me, by me just focusing on, all right, what are the checkpoints that I want to improve? I'm not worried about the result. I'm just, how does my body feel? That's the key focal point. So now I'm gonna do a few more reps, gradually increasing my speed, starting from the unit turn, drop, hitting out, just feeling amazing, focusing on form, dropping, accelerating out. One more, add a lot of pace on this, dropping, accelerating out. And now I can start to get a feel for what does the Alcaraz technique really feel like, right? Because now I'm starting to see, okay, now when I accelerate, this is how it feels, this is how it's new, this is how it's different. And I'm starting to really progress. So now let's piece it all together, where I'm gonna focus on achieving the unit turn, backswing, acceleration down and away, and the perfect contact. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna review my footage to assess and evaluate whether or not I'm actually implementing correctly. And if you want a full step-by-step system that does all of this, but in even greater depth with more drills, I encourage you to click the link in the description where you can watch a free video that's gonna teach you exactly how to get all of that. So click that button right down below. So let's go and implement everything together right now. So I'm gonna get fed balls. I'm gonna focus on all the technique, dropping, accelerating out, feeling amazing. High turn, fluid drop, acceleration. Last one, prepping, accelerate out. So I'm starting to feel really confident, and then I would progress to even higher levels of drills, which you can learn about, again, by clicking the link in the description. So I hope you guys can now see the power of how simple the framework is. Identify what you want to work on, identify what you're doing, and then piece it together with those step-by-step drills, giving yourself that clear, evaluative feedback. And that is exactly how I mastered the Alcaraz forehand in just 27 minutes. I was able to completely transform because I used this same model, but reviewed my footage, and I was able to progress that much faster. I hope you guys absolutely love this video. I'm really encouraging you to, with using this framework, to think big about what level of technique you can achieve, because by going through these iterations of doing drills, getting feedback, there's no limit to the level you can reach. If you want to master your serve pro drop position, click here. If you want to stop double faulting, click here. I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.